Today we're hearing from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse number 25. Right?
Yes.
And this verse says, Labante Brahmanirvana Rishaya Shina Kalmasa. Vaida Yata Yata Mana Sarva Bhuta Ite Rata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle, meaning in the material body. So this is chapter 5, text number 25. Labante Brahmana Nirvanam Rishaya Kshina Kalmasa China Dvaida Yatat Mana Sarvabhutatma Hite Rata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Okay, well, this is a very profound verse that we should pay attention to, because what is it all about? Well, it teaches us a difference between being engaged in humanitarian activities for the physical welfare of people is more or less a waste of time. It's not really going to help the people. Now, some people will object, no, that's not right, what you're saying, blah, blah, blah. However, it's a fact. Simply feeding people or building houses for people it's not really going to it's not really going to solve the major problems people have. Although, look, it's not easy to live in a cardboard box, especially in winter. And it's not easy to find food when you don't have any money. Okay, so there should be help for people, but that help should not be only for the body. At the same time, there should be help for the soul. So therefore, Prabhupada says, a person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. Well, meaning still in this material body and in the material world. Tabernacle is a biblical word. You want to look it up? Tabernacle. Tabernacle. What's it
In the
say?
Bible, in the Old Testament, tabernacle was the portable sanctuary used by the Israelites during their journey through the wilderness after the exodus from Egypt. So it seems like a protecting thing. It was a dwelling place of the God's presence.
Yeah, a dwelling place where where God's presence is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It had described in the Exodus 25:30. It had three
But
main.
here Prabhupada says material tabernacle. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. In other words, even though he's in the material world, he can still become Krishna conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
And liberated.
sacred temporary dwelling place.
Mm-hmm.
In a broader sense, that is how it is used.
Well, material tabernacle would be a material house or something like that. Yeah. It's a biblical word, tabernacle. Okay, so this verse is very important. It says, those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So, how do you become beyond the dualities that arise from doubts? Well, you have to become Krishna conscious, where all your doubts are finished because you have complete faith in Krishna, and therefore there will no longer be dualities. In other words, dualities confuse people. Should I do this? Should I do that? People are always, faced with the issue of making a decision, and sometimes it's very hard. Just like Arjuna, before he was instructed properly, he had duality. Should he fight or should he not fight? Should he? So he couldn't make his mind up. Therefore, he was more or less paralyzed and confused. But when Krishna instructed him in knowledge of Krishna consciousness, then he agreed to fight, understanding that everyone on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were going back to Godhead. And that even though he had relatives, very close relatives on one side, a little bit more expanded relatives on the other side, but still, they were all relatives of his. But the instruction of the Lord supersedes all other, let's say, doubts or all other things. So ultimately, Arjuna, after he heard Krishna speak to him, he understood that he had been trained as a Kshatriya to protect the principles of Sanatana Dharma. And some people on that battlefield had violated those principles of Sanatana Dharma. Therefore, there was a necessity to have a war and reestablish the proper sampradaya. When Arjuna was present, the disciplic succession had been broken, and people were living sinfully. So therefore, Krishna chose Arjuna to reestablish the Sanatana Dharma and establish it philosophically and materially. Now, why would he choose Arjuna? Arjuna was a warrior. He was a killer. Because Arjuna was a genuine devotee of the Lord, and he listened to the instruction of the Lord. So, and at that time, the principles of Dharma were broken. Therefore, it had to be reestablished. So Krishna instructed or educated Arjuna not only that he had to fight, but also he had to reestablish the principles of Sanatana Dharma culture. And he did it. He was not simply a warrior. He was a spiritual, you would call, a spiritual pundit, even though he was a warrior. So, how did he become a pundit also? Because he strictly followed the instructions of Krishna. That's when you become a pundit. If you strictly follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you are an educated person and you can be a leader of society because you don't deviate from following Krishna's instructions. So, so in this text 25, those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts. Well, Arjuna had some doubts. Because there were people on both sides or on both armies that were relatives. So he got confused. If one side was victorious, then the other side would be killed, and they were relatives of his. Or if the other side was killed, then again, he would lament because other relatives of his would be killed. So he couldn't make a decision. He was like paralyzed. But Lord Krishna instructed him that ultimately he should not follow his own mental concoctions, but he should follow the authority of Krishna. And Krishna told him, pick up your bow and arrow. You have been trained to be a Kshatriya in order to protect the principles of Sanatan Dharma. Now, Duryodhan and his group have become what you would call adharmic. But your whole purpose as a warrior is to protect the principles of Dharma. So now there shouldn't be any hesitation. And even though you're going to kill a lot of people, because Krishna is on that battlefield, although he's not going to fight, but he's going to drive the chariot of Arjuna, everybody is going to be liberated because they're going to see the Lord. So as they're dying, they're going to see the Lord and go back to Godhead. So therefore, there was no reason for Arjuna to hesitate. But he needed to be instructed by Krishna. Okay. So, and this is a real issue here. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone.
Mm.
And that's a huge statement.
Mm.
Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul. Although he may be in the material tabernacle, meaning in the material world, but he's already a liberated soul. Why? Because he's fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna. So that's what we're teaching. I mean, sometimes I wonder whether our teachers are actually making this point clear to the kids in our temple. I mean, the real purpose of life is not, getting a good education and then getting a job and making money and so forth. The real purpose of life is to understand your relationship with Lord Krishna and act in that relationship. When a man or woman is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material world. So that's what the real purpose of life is, to understand our relationship with Krishna and act in that relationship. In other words, engage in practical devotional service. And Prabhupada says here, the real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle of life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. There it is. That's all you have to understand, those two sentences. However, a person engaged only in ministering the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. In other words, people will not really be satisfied by it. There'll be some temporary relief, yes, but it's not satisfactory because it doesn't really solve their problem. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. That's the real problem. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, He is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material world. And on top of that, uh, he will be protected by the mercy of the Lord. Now, yeah, let's see. Yeah. Jivera Swarupahaya, the Jiva Swarupahaya, his real position is Krishnera Nityadas. He's the eternal servant of Krishna. That's why Lord Chaitanya recommended one, associate with the devotees and hear from them. Two, hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee. Three, worship the deity of Krishna. Four, live in a holy place. Well, we're living in a holy place when we go to the temple. And five, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, five simple things. If we do, all our problems of material life will go away. Why? Jivera Swarupahaya means the real position of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. Now, that explains who we actually are. We're the eternal servant of Krishna. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommended associate with devotees. One, hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. Two, worship the deity of Krishna. Three, live in a holy place like a temple. Four, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra always. Number five. So he said, if you do these five things, then he's recommending this so that you can become liberated easily from the cycle of birth and death. So it is said, purity is the force. Books, spiritual books are the basis.
Mm-hmm.
Preaching is the essence, and utility is the principle. It's good. Purity is the force.
Utility means
what?
Utility means what, Maharaj?
Acting in a practical way.
Mm.
Utility, how you can use things correctly
Mm-hmm.
in the service of the Lord.
Lord.
And utility is the principle. Okay. So are we finished?
Another 5 minutes we have.
Another 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so another 5 minutes. So there's a very nice statement which says, my Lord, when shall I be freed from all material desires and be completely engaged in your transcendental loving service? At the present moment, I am forlorn and nobody is my master. When shall I have you as my supreme master? Then shall I joyfully wander over the whole universe, knowing that you are my master. So therefore, Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atvavastu shivadam tapa chayon mulanam Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vapurer Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra Kriti Bihi Sususabhis Takshanat. completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries: miseries of this body, miseries caused by other bodies, and miseries caused by cataclysmic events. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. Yeah, we don't have to read anything else. It's just a beautiful Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by the culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Yadi dasyasi me kamam varam stvam varadarsama kamanam pridi aso roham bhavatastu vrine varam. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to pray for benedictions from the Lord. He said, the Danam, the Janam, the Sundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamai, Mama Janmani Janmanishwari, Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahaituki Tvai. Oh my Lord, I do not want from you any amount of wealth, nor many followers, nor a beautiful wife, for these are all materialistic desires. But if I have to ask you for any benediction, I pray that in whatever forms of life I may take my birth, under any circumstances, I will be bereft of, I will not be bereft of your transcendental devotional service. In that beautiful prayer, the Danam, the Janam, the Sundaram, Kavitam Vajagi, Shikamaye, Mama Janmani, Janmani Sri, Bhavatad Bhakti Rahai Taki Tvaya. This is Lord Chaitanya's prayer from the Sixth Astakam. Devotees are always on the positive platform, in contrast to the Mayavadis, who want to make everything impersonal or void. One cannot remain void, sunyavadi. Rather, one must possess something. Therefore, the devotee on the positive side wants to possess something. And this possession is very nicely described by Prahlad Maharaj, who says, if I must take some benediction from you, my Lord, I pray that within the core of my heart, there may be no material desires. Wow. The desire to serve the Supreme Personality Godhead is not at all material. There you go. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. Krishnate Akila Chesta. Every endeavor should be to please Krishna. Wow. Oh, my Lord. Are we finished?
Yeah.
I'll just read this last thing. Oh, my Lord, because of lusty desires, from the beginning of one's birth, the functions of one's senses, mind, life, body, religion, patience, intelligence, shyness, opulence, strength, memory, and truthfulness are vanquished. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kama Rit Yogam, materialistic life means that one is afflicted by a formidable disease called lusty desire. So, kamam rogam means that hrit, the heart, rogam is disease. So, and kamam is lust. Okay.
Basically, lust is the
disease
of the heart.
It's the disease of the heart. Yeah, that's the real sickness. Materialistic life means that one is afflicted by a formidable disease called lusty desire. Liberation means freedom from lusty desires because it is only due to such desires that one must accept repeated birth and death. As long as one's lusty desires are unfulfilled, one must take birth after birth to fulfill them. Because of material desires, therefore, one performs various types of activities and receives various types of bodies with which to try to fulfill desires that are never satisfied. The only remedy is to take the devotional service, which begins when one is free from all material desires. Anya bilasita sunyam. Anya abilasita means material desires, and sunyam means free from. The spiritual soul has spiritual activities and spiritual desires, as described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mama janmani janmani sware bhavatat bhaktir ahaituki twayi. Unalloyed devotion to the service of the Lord is the only spiritual desire. To fulfill this spiritual desire, however, one must be free from all material desires. Desirelessness means freedom from material desires. That is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as Anya Bilasita Sunyam. As soon as one has material desires, one loses his spiritual identity. Then all the paraphernalia of one's life, including one's senses, body, religion, patience, intelligence, are deviated from one's original Krishna consciousness. As soon as one has material desires, one cannot properly use his senses, intelligence, mind, and so on for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mayavadi philosophers want to become impersonal, senseless, and mindless, but that is not possible. The living entity must be living, always existing with desires, ambitions, and so on. These should be purified, however, so that one can desire spiritually and be spiritually ambitious without material contamination. In every living entity, these propensities exist because he is a living entity. When materially contaminated, however, one is put into the hands of material misery. Janma mrityu jaravyadi. If one wants to stop repeated birth and death, one must take to the devotional service of the Lord. Sarvapadi vinmiram bhuktam tatparatmena nirmalam rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchyate. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So I am beginning to properly organize all the things, all different things that I've studied before, but did not put them in an organized way. And now I'm starting to do that.
Very good.
It's good, isn't it?
Yes. You have enormous amount of material.
Oh, so much. There's so much. Many, many books. But we know you just need one book, Bhagavad Gita, that's enough. Haribol.
Very well. Are there any kind of burning questions? If not, then the recommendation would be that all of you take time to attend His Holiness Jai Advait Swami Maharaj class that is going to start at 7:30 at the temple. So, probably some of you have seen the update. See, it looks like Maharaj he took initiation at the age of 18.
Oh yeah, he's been with Prabhupada almost from the beginning.
From the beginning, and
he's a very, very advanced devotee. He's a scholar.
Yes, he edited all the Prabhupada's books. It looks
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
So it's a
He's had a lot of association with Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Yeah.
Yeah. Exceptional devotee.
Very well. So I'd like to encourage all of you to take time to.
Should we go to the temple?
Yeah, you can also.
Yeah, I'll go like this.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Very well. So Maharaj is also coming to the temple. So we'll see you at the temple. Those of you who are able to attend. Hare